right, guys, well, we're right at 7 o'clock. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us tonight on your fake Friday night, Friday Eve, for some wonderful econ talks with SC Economics in our South Carolina Financial Literacy Master Teacher Program. One of the first members, Zachary Arms, is with us tonight. You may know his face if you're in his cohort. But I'm Amanda Stigglebauer. I'm with SC Economics, and I'm a high school teacher out at Blythewood High School, teaching all things econ all day long, and it truly maximizes my utility to do that. I want to take just a second to introduce Zachary, and then I'm going to very quickly turn it over to him for this evening's discussion. So Zachary is a 2017 graduate of Clemson University, where he received his BA in secondary education and history. He is currently teaching economics, government, and psychology, and wears another hat as the assistant band director at Liberty High School in Pickens County. That is a lot, Zach. Prior to Liberty, he was at Midland Valley High School in Aiken County, and he is the former member of the Clemson University Tiger Band and is a brother of the Phi Mu Alpha Symphonia Fraternity. I am going to turn it over to Zach for our lesson today. Hope you guys enjoy the introduction to market structures and his lesson also on Nearpod. So take it away, Zachary.
Hey, thank you, Amanda. Thank you for an awesome introduction. Like she said, I'm a social studies teacher at Liberty High School up here in Pickens County. Whenever I tell someone I'm a social studies teacher and they automatically go, oh, so what history class do you teach? I'm very quick to correct them in that I've only really taught one history class since I've been teaching. I'm all about the social sciences, mainly definitely government and economics. Two very important things that our students need to know before they walk out of our classroom. Within econ, I like to use a lot of technology, as you'll see tonight. Tonight, we're going to go over the topic of market structures and what are some ways we can use technology and use some resources out there to help teach our students. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. If you will please go to your favorite web browser and go to nearpod.com. Nearpod, in case you don't know, it is a slide sharing program that you can use with your students. And it is very, very interactive. What I like to do with my students, as you're about to see, is I'll have it on my smartboard. The students, if you're one-to-one, they'll have it with their Chromebooks. And when I start the show and go to the next slide, it'll go for everyone's device. So I think that is very helpful. When you are at nearpod.com, it's going to ask you for a student login for a code. I just put the code in the chat. It is MZRDI. I'll give you a second to be able to get in.
Zach, what is it that you like about Nearpod? I know that's what I use, and a lot of my colleagues, when I was presenting at a PD last week, they said, well, I use Pear Deck. So do you have any insight into that or why you really enjoy Nearpod?
So I really try to get away from the lecture base in class, just reading slides and then calling it a day. My favorite thing about Nearpod is you still have the format of a slideshow that you can use for your students, but as we'll see, it is incredibly interactive. You can play tons of games. You can do quick review just after going through some content, whether it's matching, a quiz, a game that's sort of like, what's the review game that everyone plays?
Kahoot.
Kahoot, yeah, it's a game like Kahoot. Students love it. I love, one of my favorite parts of it is if they have their Chromebook out to participate, they can see the slides. So if you have students who are have more difficulty seeing the board, it's right in front of them. So if you're able to to look and see what's going on the board in front of you. That's going to give you an easier time, whether you're taking notes, whether you're trying to answer questions, things like that. All right, I think everyone is in. Waiting on a couple more people. I can give you guys about one more minute. Let us know if you're having issues trying to get in. All right, for sake of time, we'll go ahead and keep going. If you are still struggling to get in, or if you're having any kind of problems, just let us know. We can help you out. But you can also join a little bit later. That's another cool thing about the collaborativeness of Nearpod is if you have a student coming in late, as you see in the top left corner, the code's there. They come in, they see the code on the left, they automatically know how to start. All right, so when I use Nearpod, I'm also a big fan of fill in the blank notes. When we had to go into the quarantine in the spring, I was able to use Nearpod and these notes. They were able to fill them out with their Chromebook, and it is very efficient in them knowing what they need to know. I love using fill in the blanks. I love taking out the words that they need to know, so they put it in. The psychology teacher and me, we're making sure that they're making connections with the terms they need to know, and they're reading the definition and writing it in as they go. I'm also, just because I don't teach history, there is still a little bit of the old school history teacher in me. If we are in person, I love to print out these notes so they can keep them in their binder. It keeps them organized, and it's just a really cool technique in case you've never used it. So I always have a fill in the blanks set of notes with every single Nearpod lesson. So looking at market structures, when students typically look at this, you say the phrase monopoly, they're automatically going to start thinking about the game Monopoly. And you have to tell them there are kind of some features of market structures in the game, but we might play that a little bit later if we have time throughout the year. This is more specific to the different types of goods or services we can see and why we are able to differentiate how these goods and services are sold. What makes it so easy to sell something like a basket of peaches compared to starting your TV channel, and just looking at those different ways that we're able to become producers. So when I start out with market structures, I have a collaborative board. Another great thing about collaboration with Nearpod, I'll have them a question. When they answer the question on this board, it'll pop up on everyone's screen and we'll be able to go through it. So real quick, if you just want to try this out, in the past week, what have you used to search the internet? Number 2, what channel or app have you used to watch TV? Number 3, where have you gone out to eat? Number 4, have you purchased anything online? If so, what? So give you guys a second to be able to fill out those answers. If you are like me, that I have not been to a restaurant in quite some time, that's fine. You can skip that question and go on to the next one. All right, so as you'll see on your board, once you press enter, you can already see it coming up. I love to go over these answers with my students. A really cool feature is people can actually heart it if if they agree. So if you're trying to do like an opinionated question, people can agree with that. I see some people already hearting it up. That's awesome. And then I'll just use this as the icebreaker for the lesson, and we can get started. If you are like, well, I can't really see the bottom ones, there's a scroll feature on the right that students can actually use on their Chromebooks to get all the information. So when we begin, the lessons or the students have put them up. Before I start the lesson, I'll kind of go over it. This is kind of a good icebreaker to get them thinking about how this relates to them as consumers. And so I'll go, normally we see a lot of Googles for the first question. Sometimes a couple of Bings, mainly a lot of Google or Chrome. Number two, what channel or app? People like to say YouTube. People say Hulu a lot. People say Netflix. The main cable channels, NBC, ABC, CBS. Very good. Where have you gone out to eat? Rush's. Wish we had a Rush's in the upstate. Some really good hot dogs and chicken. Rush's, Marco's Pizza. Again, that is not a upstate luxury that we have. Elodie is Italian. Never heard of it. Probably butchering the name, but right. So good for restaurants. Where have you? Yep. Have you purchased anything online? So I see maybe an iPad. Definitely people use Amazon to purchase things online. Very good. So yeah, typically students will have, as I'm sure you know, a variety of answers. And I'm able to take this, and this is going to be the examples I'm going to use as we go throughout the market structures. So we've gone through this, we've introduced it, we're having a good time. We go to the next slide. What is a market structure? Market structure in economics depicts how firms are different. So I'll go through the definition. While they're doing this, the students are filling the blank notes, and then I'm going to show them the picture on the right and show them the four main different types. We'll go over it, I'll say them. So after we've done that, we go to the next slide and I'll show them this chart. I tell my kids that this is a very specific breakdown of market structures. We won't go into this much of detail tonight, but we will go through each one of the chart. Monopoly, oligopoly, sorry, monopolistic competition, perfect competition. We'll go through each one. And then I'll tell the guys, so don't worry about filling out the chart just yet. We're going to go through each of these in more detail. All right. One thing that you'll notice on the right, another thing, just shout out to Nearpod. They're very GIF friendly or GIF friendly, however you like to say it. Students love this. They love that, like all the pop culture stuff that you're able to put in, help them make connections to things they know about, keep them entertained. So that's a really cool thing about it. So obviously starting at Monopoly, only one major firm. So I'm going to give the descriptions of a monopoly. And then I'm going to say, did anyone say Google? So we'll see that a lot of people did say, oh, yes, I did say Google. I'm going to say, well, Google is an example of a monopoly, right? So it's very, very almost impossible to enter the market, right? And as a result, because they don't have any competitors, they can charge whatever they want for their service. Then that's immediately when I get the student, and normally in the front of the room, say, but Mr. Arms, Google is free to use. And then that's when you can bring up, correct, it is free to use, but the people who are buying Google are the people advertising their web pages or advertising their product or service. These advertisers spend a lot of money for Google so they can get their ads out there. And I break that down about the best way to use a monopoly. So that's monopoly. Then we move to oligopoly. I bring back the Disney Plus. I don't know if there are any Marvel nerds tonight. Hope you've been watching WandaVision. It's been awesome. Did you watch NBC, CBS, Hulu? Those are the examples. I then break them down into these different major media groups and the channels underneath them. And then I say there are a few competitors, so but a little bit more than a monopoly, but not too many. And then I bring up non-price competition, and I ask them what they think that means. Get a lot of funny answers, and then I break it down and say non-price competition is basically they have to compete with you other than giving you the product or service at a lower price. And that's when we talk about commercials, especially for channels. What shows are we producing? What shows are entertaining? Why is Disney Plus? Why is Disney stock doing so well with Marvel and with Disney Plus, and things as that nature. So that's an example for oligopoly. Yep, and so we keep going. Then we get to monopolistic competition. I asked them what they think the map is. This map is actually what each area in the US prefer, what type of food. And then this is when we bring up to the restaurants and we see any restaurant you ate at. They have non-price and price competition. We start talking about the different restaurants, and how they're able to say, well, we do this for a cheaper price. Start talking about the 4 for $4 that I used so much during college from Wendy's. We also start talking about non-price competition with the different commercials, the quality versus quantity. And that's the example I use for monopolistic competition. Finally, we have perfect competition. A lot of producers, price competition, free to enter market. And then this is where I say anything that you would buy off of an Amazon market that is not specifically Amazon. The kids have to realize Amazon itself is a market. And you can buy anything, or you can buy one item from a long list of vendors. It's really based off the price because it's the same item. I use this image from Amazon of a stapler I bought a while back, and I show them specifically in the far right corner. You see the Prime logo and it says new and used. You have 48 different options to buy the same exact stapler. That's an example of a perfect competition. You're only worried about the price. So we've gone through the 4 main types of the 4 types of market structures. And then I give them a quick review to make sure that they understand the content. What you see now in front of you is kind of a matching game that you can now begin, and you can start matching. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to start matching. Cool thing about the matching part is if the matches don't work, or you didn't do as well, or if you didn't do as well as you'd like, you can do as many tries as possible. And then if you're curious as far as what the presenter view looks like for Nearpod, I'll share my screen for a second. If you want to pop back up into Zoom, this is just sharing you an example. You'll see in the bottom right corner, if you have a lot of students like I do who are very self-conscious about how many tries it took them, you can blur out their names. Or if you have an incredibly competitive group, like one of my AP classes, you can show their names, and then they can make it a competition and go from there. So that's just showing you a cool feature of Nearpod. Once we're done with this quick review, I go to a more hands-on activity that I use from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. If you have been to an SE Econ workshop, I'm sure you've heard of the Federal Reserve Banks and their resources for teaching economics and personal finance, and there are a lot out there. This is one I've used with bubblegum and teaching market structures with a competitive gum market. This is a PDF. If you click on it, it goes to the PDF of the lesson plan for this activity. 10 pages, very easy. I'll describe it real quick. Basically, you are dividing certain students up into your class based off of a market structure. So group 1 is a single student. Group 2 are 3 students who are allowed to talk amongst themselves. Group 3 are 3 students who are not allowed to talk to another. It even says, kind of talking about like psychology, if you let students, if you don't have a seating chart, those in the back of the room. So if you have like students who try to stay out of the limelight, you can pick those. Group 4, the rest of the class who are allowed to talk amongst themselves if they wish. So now we are, we've divided them up. If you go back to the Nearpod, it has some corresponding slides that you can use. And this is where, I don't know how your guys' boards work if you have a smart board. Thankfully, we have a whiteboard that it projects onto, so I can start writing this up. If you have Active Inspire or a smart pen, this would be a cool way to collaborate. So number of sellers, they fill that out with a corresponding worksheet. Were they allowed to communicate, yes or no? And then each group has to figure out who's going to win. The way you win is you sell your stick of gum with the highest price. Highest price wins. And this is what students are going to see. Students are going to realize that group 1, it's one person. They don't have to compete with anyone. They're going to sell it for $1. The dollar is the max. They're going to sell it for $1. Group 2, you're going to realize that it's going to be a little bit lower, but not maybe too much because you don't have that much competition. They might even be talking to one another, trying to make a deal, that kind of thing. Group 3 has few sellers and that they cannot talk to one another. So that might be a little bit more savage than group 2. And then group 4, no one could talk, if they wanted to, they could talk. And you're going to notice it's mainly going to be more about the price. You're really going to figure out who your salespeople are, especially groups 2. They're definitely going to start like really bringing out the non-price competition in that they're going to say all this crazy stuff to convince you, the consumer, to buy their stick of gum. So really cool, gets them up, gets them collaborating, gets them competitive, and then the rest of the activity breaks it down as to what group is what market structure, and it's a really good review for them to grab. All right. And then the slides, as you'll see, goes over the vocabulary, so they're reviewing that again. This is the answers, so they can make sure that they have the right ones. And that's that activity. Then the way to end this is a game on Nearpod that they love to play. It is called Time to Climb. Essentially, it is like Kahoot in that it's a competition, and they're basically racing to get to the top of the hill through a multiple choice quiz. So I'll give you guys a second to get into the game. We'll go ahead and play it. We have a super short game this time that we'll do. Normally, you can make this as long as you want. A lot of teachers like to use this as the review game before a test. So it's very, very user friendly. At this point, your students are going to be laughing, saying, oh, I can be a penguin, I can be a turtle, things like that. Give you a couple more seconds to be able to get in. All right, for sake of time, we'll go ahead and, more. Is anyone else still trying to get in? All right, let's go ahead and start it. If you have your volume up, you'll hear the music, and you'll see how it goes. All right. So is a characteristic of a market. So it's a multiple choice question. All right, good job, Lakeisha. So it'll show you the competition. You'll see your little character start moving, and then it'll go to the next one. You can do this by without talking. You can review the question out loud. Google is an example of a blank. The name of this game is Time to Climb, and it is part of Nearpod. It is a Monopoly, good. The major media companies are an example of blank. And then last question. Which type of competition is in a perfect competition market? All right. And then it'll show you the winners. If you want to do bonus points at that point, you can. Again, another little game that they love to play, and it just keeps them on their toes with the content. So that was very quickly the type of my lesson that I would do for market structures, showing you a bunch of different activities you can use, different technology you can use. Big fan of Nearpod, and things like that. If you are interested in Nearpod, next generation of personal finance, they do from time to time have grants that you can apply for to get a free Nearpod account, which is, I think it's like $120 value for the year. So make sure you're on the Next Gen's email list, checking out those newsletters to see if they'll announce it. If you do want to try Nearpod, you can try Gold for 30 days free. The free level is okay, but you don't get a lot of the activities, and you also have to have a specific amount of data you can have. So I would recommend the Gold. If you have any questions about Nearpod, let me know. And that's really all I had. I feel like I went really fast. So thank you for listening. Let me know if you have any questions.
Trying to find that unmute button. Well, Zach, this was wonderful. We thank you so much. Market structures is certainly one of those topics that I find super interesting because I'm an econ nerd, but a lot of times students have a hard time connecting to it. So you have a lot of applicable ways to help students to understand that really econ is all around them. Lakeisha says in the chat box, becoming Nearpod certified will give you a free 1-year upgrade also. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's like over a $300 value. So it was simple grant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I was able to get. But yeah, it goes through level. So obviously the higher you get, the more information you get.
Absolutely. And Sheila says, love the interactive collaborative segments. I will definitely use Nearpod. And, you know, Zach highlighted so many different portions of Nearpod that are awesome to use and engage your students. I know he says that in Pickens County, you guys are pretty much face to face, right?
We are. Like I said, like back in when everything shut down, I was able to use it to keep it more interactive. Being face to face and with like, if you like paper notes, it's definitely very useful to be face to face.
I think that if this pandemic has taught us anything, is to be flexible and to really try new things. And Nearpod, I think, speaking for both of us, has been one of those things that just went out on a limb. I think we probably saw it at the same place in GPF.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it was a really engaging way to interact via a virtual professional development. And it really works with the kids too. I'm always surprised with how interactive they are and how it gives them a voice for kids who might not want to speak in class, but they'll type on those collaboration boards and they'll play a lot of the games. So thanks for sharing. Any other questions, guys?
If you have questions about the Master Teacher Program, I know Amanda's going to speak to it a little bit. If you have questions about that as well, I can help answer those as well.
Absolutely. So Zach is presenting on behalf of us and on behalf of the Treasurer's Office as part of the South Carolina Financial Literacy Master Teacher Program. And so you guys may see 529 Future Scholar accounts. You may have one of those for your own children. And this is in partnership with that program to encourage teachers and students to infuse financial literacy in their classrooms, no matter what you teach. So we have kindergarten teachers who are master teachers. You certainly don't have to teach economics or personal finance all day, every day in order to be a South Carolina financial literacy master teacher. So just a couple of things as we kind of wrap up. I'm going to place our evaluation for tonight in the chat box for you guys. If you will please give us your feedback on it. What are we doing well? What can we continue to do to help you? What can we improve on? Most of you guys are veterans, so you know the deal. And then I will also say that as part of this presentation, if there is something that you can take and use with your students to instruct them in the principles of economics and financial literacy, then we're also giving an incentive for teachers who teach a financial literacy and economics lesson related to market structures. Really, it's pretty simple. It does require that you collect some evidence from your students. Sheila, we will certainly follow up with you. If you will give me your email in the chat box, I'll make sure to follow up with you about that information. Thank you. So if you are teaching your students, no matter what grade level they are, you can certainly teach them the same lesson. You can teach them a modified version of this lesson, but you'll just need to collect some evidence on, what are some sample pieces of student work that they did, take some pictures. If you're virtual / hybrid, you may take a picture of, your Zoom screen or whatever. But there's also a separate evaluation that we'll send to you. I don't want to put that in the chat box just yet because it does get confusing. But at the very end of this presentation, I will post that as the last thing so you guys can see what's included. Just as every good teacher does, it includes your learning targets, what your goals for your students were, kind of some basic things that you would pull from your lesson plan. And then, of course, taking some pictures to show evidence that you have instructed, in fact, your students in this lesson, and you have some student work. So the purpose of this is we really want to see that what we are doing is directly not only impacting teachers, but directly impacting students as well. And so I know that you guys already do this. Why not earn $100 incentive to do it? As economists, we know that incentives matter. Sheila, thank you for your email address. And for everyone else, I'm going to place in the chat box one more time the evaluation for this evening. This is just a simple little Google form. And for those of you who are interested in perhaps teaching a lesson that is like this or similar, I am going to also post the link to that evaluation as well, so you guys can see it. Actually, I'll just post the web address so you guys can save it. That would be a little bit easier. And so if you are interested, like Sheila is, in becoming a financial literacy master teacher, we incentivize our teachers to not only gain some professional development and information about how to become a better teacher of financial literacy, but also, just as Zach is doing tonight, we require and ask that you provide at least one professional development experience in financial literacy and economics to other teachers. And this is exactly what he's doing tonight. And so we provide, in partnership with the Treasurer's Office, a nice little incentive, monetary incentive for our teachers at 3 different levels. So when you first begin at the bronze level, this is year 1, and it's an opportunity to earn up to $500, year 2, $1,000, and year 3, $1,500. But what we have found is that there are actually other opportunities to earn even more than that. So it's a wonderful program. I think that Zach could probably speak to the fact that, you know, we really try to incentivize and treat our master teachers well. All right, other questions? Any thoughts? Any questions about the master teacher program? All right, so here is this. We have a lot of master teachers in this tonight. You guys are really a good community to support one another. All right, so guys, this last evaluation is for those of you who may want to teach your students the lesson or a similar modified lesson that Zach taught tonight. You'll follow this link, and there you obviously will collect your evidence first, but this will give you an idea of what it is that you'll need to do in order to earn your incentive. Other than that, we want to thank Zach again, and your presentation was wonderful. I was nerding it up over here with the econ stuff. And thank you, the rest of you, thank you for coming tonight. You guys are amazing. Thanks for hanging in there. And I know how challenging these times are. To make it to a professional development at 7 o'clock in the evening is tough. So the process for becoming a master teacher, Sheila, I am going to drop in the chat box another piece of information for you. There is an application process. And so you'll submit your resume or curriculum vitae, a letter of recommendation that is a professional reference. It could be from a department head, an administrator, lead teacher, a personal statement about why you think teaching financial education is important and why you want to become a financial literacy master teacher, and then a little biography about yourself. So it's really not a tough application process. But we are accepting applications until March the 31st. So that's our deadline. So we try to give people a heads up, because I think that the most challenging thing to do is get a letter of recommendation. Sometimes those take time. So that is the step that I would go through first.
Like she was saying, it's been a really fun program to be a part of. It really shows you all the resources that are out there. It gets you to become an educational leader, really gets you to do things you've never done before. Like, I've never led a online professional development session before, so this was new to me. The incentives are all obviously really nice. They have gifts and surprises for you every now and then. It is a lot of fun. As far as the workload, I honestly think that the application was the most work. It's doable. It's not like having you up at 2 o'clock in the morning on a weeknight. it's helping you become a better teacher, a better person, and a better lover of financial literacy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zach. And I would also say that, you know, as you consider like why you want to do this program and why financial literacy is important, I think that really centers you as a teacher as well. Really kind of puts things into perspective, gives us the why of what we do each and every day. And really and truly, we want for every teacher, no matter what their content is, to be a teacher of good decision making and financial literacy and a good role model anyways. So again, I'll thank you guys for coming tonight, and we will see you guys soon. If you are interested in other webinars, please visit our website. I'll put it in the chat box. You can register there. Have a great evening, guys. Zach, thank you again.
Thank you.